Hi, Sue. Can you hear me?
Yes, I uploaded my own copy. You may have uploaded another one. Thank
That's
you for the catch on that.
no problem.
We're going to wait till about 5 minutes after and see if we get a few more people. I am looking for the spring chairs. Joel confirmed he would join us. Uh, also, Alvaro and Bruno was a maybe. So I am looking for one of those chairs to join us so that they can um, go through this SR segment routing and BGPLS discussion. The BGPLS is many of them deal with segment routing. The Please read while you're waiting if you've not read it before, or if you just like to refresh your mind on the note well, please read the note well. Okay, it looks like we're not going to get those chairs with us this morning. I will go ahead. I am going to go ahead and share the agenda for this morning. Uh, Jeff is on vacation this week, and so if you have any questions, make sure you ask Kay or I. This morning, we're going to go through the status on IDR working group drafts on BGP, LS, and SR. And then we're going to go through a discussion of allocations of sub TOVs for the SR policy draft and the general tunnel. We'll then pop off to two drafts that are ITF, that are IDR drafts, the informational draft, and a proposed standard draft. These are about ready for working group last call. These two drafts are draft ITF, IDR, BGP, LS, SR, VPN, MT, and draft IDR, SR policy, NRP. We will then go through two proposed drafts on BGP, LS advertisement, and on a segment route optimization. I hope by the time we get to those that we have one of the chairs for spring. So let me dive right into the status. I do want to remind you that there are 4 interims planned for this fall. This is the first. The next one, Jeff Haas um, will be hosting on link bandwidth. We had several drafts and concerns at IETF 120. We'll also cover next top capabilities, and that'll be on the 23rd. We'll have a draft, a short one on flow spec, just for the final drafts before we start an adoption. And then I'm still trying to see if the best chairs would like to talk about the overlap between secure VPN and SD-WAN. If they don't, we'll leave that off to the IETF 121. And then finally, on the 14th of October, we have a pre IETF 191 additional draft. The feedback, an additional draft interim is for anyone who wants to present their initial draft at IETF 121. We ask that you present at this interim beforehand. If you don't present at the interim, you won't get a slot for a -00. This is a recommendation that John Scudder had for us, our AD, a couple IETFs ago, and it proved very useful. The feedback from IETF 120 from the working group members is they'd like to make sure that's a permanent habit for us. Okay, any questions on the agenda or bashing? Okay, let me go on to the slide. Did I miss anyone? Okay. I haven't seen anyone in the chat. Care if you'll man that in case I miss something.
Sure, I will. Thanks.
Okay, let me go on to the slides and pick the next one. Okay. Hopefully this will be much shorter than the lengthy time for it. But I tried to catch up on all the slides. Another request I had at IDR IETF 120 was to try to give us a sense of what was going on with segment routing in the IDR working group drafts, both the IETF ones we've approved for the IDR working group and individual drafts. And then to look at some of the assignment issues we have, one of the hopes that Ayanna had is that we have a registry created by draft IETF, IDR, SR policy, SAFI, that's not going to be created until that gets reviewed. Our review from the IETF chairs is running about a year. That's overly long, in my opinion, but that's where we are. And so I want to talk about assignments on that registry that would be created. And hopefully, Ayanna will start to pick up this temporary assignment. And the last we'll go through is BGPLS drafts, both the BGPLS. You will find that for all the IDR drafts in both the segment routing and the BGPLS, I sent out a Shepherd report. Okay, so what is the status of the drafts? Well, we have two key issues: draft IETF IDR SR policy SAFI and draft IETF IDR SR seg types are at the ISG. They went during July, but as I mentioned, we sent several drafts up to the ISG, and they've not even touched the CAR and CT drafts. And they were sent up in March. So I fear that that will be a problem for the next year. Another key issue is the unicast SR policy for segment routing and the multicast are actually two different SAFI pairs of SAFI and tunnel in caps tunnel types. The unicast has SR policy SAFI and the same tunnel type, SR policy tunnel type. The multicast has SR P2MP SAFI and tunnel type. So I just want everyone to recognize that there are two different SAFIs and two different tunnel types. I'm not sure in reading all the drafts that's understood. Now, there are three types of SR policy, as the spring folks will know very well. There is explicit, composite, and dynamic. Now, the drafts that are key right now have gone to the explicit definition. So draft IETF IDR SR policy SAFI and seg types deals with the explicit segments. The composite, there's an individual draft on the drawing board, but I really do not know how much that's been reviewed by spring. And Alvaro, I hate to put you on the spot since you just recently joined, but what is the sort of status about drafts with composite mechanisms? Are we expecting those at this time?
Hey, Sue, how are you?
Good morning.
Yes, I just joined, as you said, my name. So there's a couple of drafts, I think, that are being discussed that are working group drafts. I believe they need a little bit more review and discussion in the working group. So I don't think they're, ready for anything yet.
That's my sense in the drafts, in the individual drafts that are coming forth with composite. So that's actually very heartening, Alvaro, because I was reading this and finding this. Are there dynamic drafts coming in as well? Are they more mature?
Dynamic. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by
There are
that.
three types. There are three types of SR policies: explicit, composite, and dynamic.
I don't remember off the top of my head seeing that, but
Okay.
just, as you said,
Okay.
yeah, deer with the deer in the headlights.
Okay. So I'll pick that up with you, Alvaro and Joel, separately.
Yep.
Okay. So thank you, Alvaro, for going through on the composite. I just felt composite when I read them were a little up and down. There's one draft IETF IDR SR policy NRP that seems to be just editorial. It will probably be reviewed for working group last call by spring and Tees because we committed to Tees to do that, although they've indicated that was approved. We have a number of drafts looking at that are dependent on draft IETF IDR SR policy SAFI and draft IETF IDR SR seg types that I reviewed, and all of them, I'll go through most of them by name, are proposed standards, and they need both technical expertise outside of the NRP draft. Those are TE policy attribute, which provides additional segment types. There's the SR MPLS ELP. I will go back to reading the full name. Draft ITF IDR BGP SR MPLS ELP. That needs that specifies a way to insert the LP into the segment list, and that needs a bit more work. The segment list ID we've approved, but it again needs some more editorial work. So does the metric for the segment list, the path MTU, and the path segment concept. This path segment concept is providing you with something that tries to give you information about the full path and the reverse path. So all of these are in good functional order. I would love to hear if there's 2 implementations on everything, because that's one of our key hurdles. So our work with the segment lists is coming along, but there are technical pieces. Most people have responded to me and said, yes, thank you, I'll work on these technical and these editorial issues. I'm trying with these drafts to give specific recommendations so people can go to working group last call or go to implementation. It is the hope that as we believe that SR policy SAFI and seg types are ready for approval for publication, that these drafts. Now, I will just remind you that IDR SR policy SAFI is going for a proposed standard, and draft ITF IDR SR seg types does not have 2 implementations, so it's going for experimental. So now we go to the multicast SR draft. The P2MP policy is really early work. It has gone expired, and I know the authors were off working on an implementation. But it, as I mentioned, has a new SAFI type. We also have a new SR draft on a L2 bundle that we just approved. So all of these pieces of work need review by Spring and Best, and so too the L2 bundle. Now, what about the independent drafts? there's a number of these, as I just mentioned, that seem to have more need for spring to work on. There's draft Chen IDR SR policy CP valid. It would be good to know if the validity concept is really something that spring is going to do. And the composite you had me ask on draft Jang IDR SR policy composite path, that needs some spring. The draft Lin SR policy head and behavior we discussed in May, and it still waits the 05. The draft loose segment list optimization, again, is another one that in the Shepherd's viewpoint, it really needs to have some more spring work. And DebtNet has a DebtNet hold. It's very, very early, and apparently the DebtNet work needs to continue. The policy template we reviewed, the draft Zhang SR policy template 04 we reviewed in May, and it still needs some spring and PCE work. And the draft scheduling. So I see we have a lot of work that's very active. The stuff that's IDR drafts needs to have editorial and technical work resolved, but then it can pretty well move toward working group last call. The individual drafts need a little bit more work before even adoption calls. Common errors, just for folks who are looking at it. One of the key things when I'm writing an editorial, when I'm doing a Shepherd's report to get people to the ISG, is it needs these SR drafts need to have a clear link to 9012. They are a SAFI plus a tunnel in caps draft for the SR policy. They are augmenting RFC 9012. AKA tunnel in caps attributes, and the SAFI, but they must sort of give the in the introduction that that's what they're doing. They're not augmenting SR policy and SR policy candidate routes. That's the concept. They are in reality augmenting the IDR BGP mechanisms, and many of the drafts sort of don't make that connection. And I do expect them to make that connection as a shepherd, and I think it makes it much easier for things to go through the ISG without problems. In addition, that will help you clean up error handling augments. The malformed TLVs are something we have a real clear discussion both in RFC 7606 and in SAFI. We talk about out of range values versus the actual SRPM, the actual mechanism that selects the SR route. Finally, the last thing that you need to do a little better with is the security. The security draft IETF IDR SL policy SAFI, thanks to Ketan, other co-authors, some of CARE's suggestions, as a fairly good security section. You can, if you first read that section, if you're writing one of these drafts, I think you'll understand how to add comments that augment RFC 9012, augment draft IETF IDR SR policy SAFI, and add your critical information. You are always adding something in a proposed standard if you're augmenting RFC, those two drafts, RFC 9012 and the draft IETF IDR SR policy SAFI. You're adding some piece of information you need to comment on that. If you have questions about this, I will be glad to help you individually. I've tried to give individual review. And I hope if you're listening to this as a recording, that you will contact me if you have problems. I'm going to go through the current tunnel assignments because that's one of the problems we're facing. And I noticed an error in the wiki, so I will correct that after the IETF, after this interim. But the slides are correct to the best of my ability. Okay, now, do I have the most recent slides or not? No, I do not have the most recent. Nope, I don't have the most recent slides. Just a moment, I'm going to try to upload a unique, there it is. Just a minute, I'll need to stop and go to the right slide. Gee, I'm having trouble picking up the right slide. I should be able to pick up the one out of at least.
I think the one uploaded is the latest one. Can you check again?
The revision one is?
The one from the data tracker.
Okay, the one from the data tracker is the latest one?
Yeah. I'm checking. I just downloaded it. It is the latest one.
Okay. It's not got my changes. Unfortunately, that's important at this point. Okay, let's see if I can pick it up. Nope, I don't have it. Guys, is there a way I can go with just my slides?
Yeah, you could go with your slides and then maybe just talk about the changes.
Okay. My apologies. It looks like, there it is. I think I can get this one. Okay. I've pulled one in, but I'm okay. Okay. Okay, I've got my slides. I apologize for our delay here, folks. Okay. So one of the problems we have is that we're going to be a long time for draft ITF, IDR, SR policy, SAFI to actually make it through the ISG. I anticipate it'll be 9 months before John actually looks at it. 9 months from July, which means we're in February. And it seems we've got to do something to keep going while we have that delay. Some of the things are being allocated out of the tunnel SAFI TLV, and you can ask for early allocation for those. And you'll notice you have the NRP, the segment list, the policy candidate late, and the policy name already there. The difficulty is we also have a segment type registry, which draft ITF, IDR, SR policy, SAFI creates. And there are a number of registry values. It has been recommended that you use the name and not the value in this registry due to the long implementation history of this draft. Some things were deprecated. The choice for the authors and at this point for the working group is that it was okay to reassign those values for segments A through K and deprecate some that were earlier used, 2, 10, 2, and 12 and 13. The challenge is we also have new segment types being adopted by the working group. Do we go ahead and manage that registry ourselves? That would be, and do we try to keep the segment types in order? Tentatively, the segment types for the newly adopted TE policy attribute could be in the 21, 22, 24 space. And I've tried to add these spaces on the web to try to give something to go forward. But these are preliminary. Now, one way that I was talking to Iana at ITF and was to let them hold a temporary registry, because then you would get their best guess. And that transition to between me just putting it on the wiki and having some errors, and Iana, who does this for a living, is that I need to get it through the ISG. It sounded like ITF that the ISG was working on this, and I'm still in process of trying to hand this off. So part of that is, part of the handoff is, do you care if you have segment types mixed? I think with the current thing that the sequential, just taking the next number for things under the segment types, the segment lists are a valid way to go. So again, what you have here and is you have segment types intermixed with other things at that same list of segment types: weight, metric, path MTU, ELP, path segment, which gives you information about the full path, and reverse path segment. I'll let you think about that for a while I go through BGP. Just to give you an idea of other things proposed at the segment list, we have people proposing the validity count. I have concerns on this because of the error handling in the text. Again, that's one of those drafts that is still needing more spring work. The head end behavior L2 head-end behavior. People seem to understand what's going on, but we need to have more clarity in the draft. There is a potential of a new E flag. Well, that could be handled with existing ones, but those flags, IANA doesn't have that in their registry. There is the composite, the template, and the scheduling, which I mentioned have maturity. So I'm okay with waiting on that. Anyway, I need to, in a few minutes, ask you if there's any feedback. I'll take feedback now. I'll also take feedback on the mail list. Okay, let's talk about BGPLS. BGPLS mechanisms, the base mechanisms, a lot of them have been requested in draft draft ITF, IDR, BGP, LS, SR policy, and draft ITF, IDR, BGP, LS, TE path. Both of those, Keitan asked for working group adoption. He's got a fairly exhaustive Shepherd's review, but in reality, there are good implementations, and I think that the clarity is mostly in the technical descriptions and not in the actual problems in the mechanism. So we're ready to take the document toward working group last call after he goes through the edits, and I believe he's suggested there are implementations. These both drafts were a split of an original draft, so hopefully we can take that to working group last call. We have draft ITF, IDR, BGPLS, SR policy, NRP, and that has both SR and segment routing and a BGPLS, but it has a good way toward heading toward that next step. We'll have a presentation today on draft IDR, BGPLS, SR, VPN, MT. It's an info draft. And the draft ITF, IDR, BGP, LS, ISS flood has requested. So those are the ones you're likely to see in the next 3 to 4 months. Okay, the rest are sort of waiting. You'll notice a repetition between the SR drafts and some of the work here. That's why you're seeing there's a requirement to get the SR drafts done to pair them at the same time as you ask for BGPLS monitoring of the same stuff. You'll notice that with link MTU SR policy path segment. SR service segments seems to need a little bit more revision. It's gone expired. And lastly, the last fundamental draft is draft ITF, BGP, LS, BGP only fabric. That's PS, but I think it's needs more work before it's ready for working group last call. The other drafts, there are again questions about whether the draft Chen IDR BGPLS algo related adjacency has really been completed and ready for working group adoption. There are, again, the SR policy CP validity and security capabilities that need existing work, more concept work in spring. And draft Chen IDR BGPLS transport slice needs to suggest the work to the existing NRP work to see if you can harmonize it, because there is an existing NRP work. The scalable NRP seems to build on it, so I encourage the authors to talk to one another, but we don't want to have two drafts doing things. Again, Draftly IDR BGPLS SR policy composite needs some maturity in spring, and TE policy PM needs to be upgraded to existing drafts so I can further my Shepherd's report. And the P2M, the Draftlu IDR BGPLS SR P2MP policy distribution needs to align with the P2MP SAFI and tunnel. And Draftlu IDR BGPLS SRP flexible path needs concept development probably in spring. And Draft Tong IDR BGPLS SAVNet. There are active discussions between IDR chairs and SAVNet chairs. So I think that needs to be done. So most of those drafts that are individual drafts need some work in spring, or some work with the authors before going forward. And I've run past most of my time, so I will come to the base question on allocation. So are we really, does anyone have a problem with trying to let IANA take early, the early allocation based on experts? We've been doing it fairly well with other genres, other portions of the text. There really is an alignment with BGP LS ranges, and I've found mistakes on my early allocation page, so I'm ready to send it off to IANA, who will probably do a better job. Any problems with the current way of assigning that? Okay, there are always 3 allocations, first come, first serve, which is what we're doing. Allocate with gaps, something else. Okay, I'm gonna continue to try to do this and upgrade my sending it off to IANA. You probably won't hear about it again. I will contact the individual drafts. Yao, you had a question?
Hi, so about the allocation mechanisms, if we choose option 2, does it mean that some code points for the early allocation has to be changed? For example, for the segment slide D and the path segment?
No, it's strictly for the segment list. This there's a new registry for the segment list. Those registries defined by the draft IDR, draft IETF IDR SR policy SAFI, under the registry SR policies, SR policy segment lists, subtypes, those are the ones that are not official at this point, because the draft
Yeah.
so option 2 just is the way for that registry to function as a registry, you either take the next number or you give some space in the next numbers. You might say, we'll put a block here and put a block there. You will notice in the BGPLS that there are some different starting points. Some start 1 through N, some start at 100. That would be the second case. Is that clear?
Oh yeah, yeah, I understand that. But my question is, if we took option 2, does it mean that some code points in the wiki that we have already allocated has to change? For example, as you listed in the previous slides, the 17 and 18 for the subtiers for path segment, and 19 for the segment list ID subtier V.
You might. Okay, that
Oh,
might happen. I'm suggesting at this point to go on with first come first serve unless there's a problem. My recommendation is we continue on with first come first serve. I'm looking for coders who do not log first come first serve to let me know that that's a problem.
okay,
I
okay, I
did.
understand. Yeah.
Yep. Good question.
Yeah.
Excellent question. I was not clear. Right now, I'm taking the
Yeah.
easy
Oh,
approach, which is first come, first serve. But all of these, please note that if you're in the segment type portion, there is a registry under section 6.5 of SAFI. Let me put this in the chat room. If you're under that registry, if you're under this registry, hopefully that shows up in the chat room. That's 6.5 under draft IETF IDR SR policy SAFI. That registry has not officially been allocated. I'm trying to do my best to give a first come first serve on that allocation, but I don't do it with the same rigor that IANA would. So I'm looking to see if they'll take on that registry and perhaps the other registries, but that are not created by SAFI. And that's just a problem in the delay and people working hard based on draft IETF IDR.
oh yes.
Oh, I
So,
always get it. Based on draft IETF IDR SR policy SAFI. Does that make sense, Yao?
Yes. So what I want to say is that, and I also send it to list that. So at least we don't want to change the some early allocation points because we already have some implementations. So that's all. So, and if we
Okay.
want to change that, please do that as soon as possible. Yeah, that's all.
It is not my intent to change it at this point, but to have the discussion to let people know.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. First come, first serve seems reasonable. Adrian, is there any problem you can foresee since you've done a number of these under BGPLS?
Yeah, sorry, I was finding buttons there. No, I think that the question was a really good one. Once you've got something in your, even in your wiki registry, you've pretty much made a commitment to people writing code that that's the value that's going to be available.
Yep.
what do I know? I know you have to write an RFC to get IANA to take on the registry, but that need only be 2 pages, and I'm sure you could rush it through quickly.
My problem is the registry isn't been created yet.
That's right. So you have to write an RFC to create the registry and
I
do the
think I'll do that then.
initiation.
That's probably the better thing, and see if I can rush it through rather than get it. IANA was trying to take on temporary access on that registry as an early allocation registry, but I'll double check. Okay, I'll keep on with first come, first serve. I'll notify everyone on it, and I'll rush through that registry. At this point, I think I've overrun my time quite a bit. I hope the walkthrough was useful to those people, either listening to the video or whatever. Folks, I'm going to go on to the next presentation. Which should be Chongfen.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. I will run the slides for you. Just say next and I'll go ahead with it.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Hello, everyone. This presentation is about applicability of BGPLs with multi-topology for SR-based network resource partitions. Next, please. Yes, this is background. NRP is introduced in RFC 9543, and one NRP consists of a set of dedicated or shared network resources. And it is showed with a field topology and can be used to support one or more or a group of network slice services. There has been several working group documents related to NRPs. The first one is Enhanced VPN in Spring Working Group. It specifies the mechanisms and procedures of building SR-based NRP based on the resource-aware segments defined in resource-aware segments document in Spring Working Group. The IGP mechanisms for SR-based NRP are discussed in LSR Working Group. There is also a multi-topology-based approach in LSR Working Group, and this document has passed working group last call this year. So the document presented today describes the multi-topology-based BGP-LS mechanisms for SR-based NRP. It can distribute the NRP topologies and T attributes of NRPs also to network controllers. The interdomain topology and the T attributes of NRP also considered. It aligns with approach of MT-based SIMP in LSR Working Group. So this document is an information one, and there no new BGP extension is introduced here. Next, please. So BGP LS is used to distribute the following NRP specific information to network controller, including domains NRP topology, interdomain NRP topology, and resource-aware segments and associated key attributes of the NRP. So this is a brief introduction. Next, please. Yeah. So this document proposed to reuse multi-topology ID as a control plane identifier of NRP. It is assumed that each NRP is associated with a unique logic topology in each domain. So let's talk about some specific. For the intradomain NRP topology and advertisement, it proposed to use MTID TLV BGP link NRI prefix NRI to advertise per NRP topology information, and the topology specific SRCs are advertised for the NRP using BGLs and SRv6 extensions. For interdomain NRP topology advertisements, it uses MTID TLV with BGPLs EP advertised to advert per NRP interdomain connectivity and topology specific and a couple of seats. So it should be noticed that the MIT ID need to be unified applied to ensure the consistency both in each domain and on the inter-domain links. Topology-specific T attributes are used to specify results allocated to each NRP. With BGPS NRP topology-specific T attributes, advertisements can also be advertised. The maximum link bandwidth sub-TLV is used to advertise the subset of the bandwidth allocated to the NRP identified by a MTID. Next, please. So during the past period of time, the terminology and the descriptions about NRP have been updated to align with RFC 9543. And the related drafts in other working groups. We also updated the scalability considerations in documents. We have addressed the reviews comments received recently. A special thanks to Sue and Adrian for your careful review and comments. And editorial change have been made, and we updated the reference as well. Next, please. So up to now, we have addressed all the comments received in the latest version, and its companion document has passed the working group last call in and last working group, and so we authors believe this document has been stable for a while and ready for working group last calls. That's all. Thank you. Any comments? Hey.
Thank you very much, Changfen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Changfen. Any questions, folks? Otherwise, we're going to start a working group last call for this document later today. Okay, we will go on. It is an informational draft, as I mentioned. You may comment as we go to working group last call. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me go on to the next presentation. Thank you for Changfen for catching us up on our time frame. The next presentation is G and G. I'm sending the slide control to you. If that becomes a problem, let me know.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, thanks. So, good morning or good evening, everyone. This is Jido. I'm going to give a brief update about this document on the BGPSR policy extensions for NRP. So here are some background information. As Zhongfeng just mentioned, the NRP concept was introduced in RFC 9543, and NRP can be used to support one or a group of network slice services, and that NRP can be identified by an NRP identifier carried in the data packet. This is also introduced in the TIS working group document, NRP scalability draft. And as a policy, as we just discussed, it's a very important functionality introduced in Spring. It consists of a set of candidate paths, and each candidate path consists of one or more segment list and associated information. And packet adhered to that policy will be augmented with a segment list in the packet header. And for the NRP deployed in the network, and as a policy may be associated with a particular NRP to provide a guaranteed performance of the bandwidth resource. The association between that policy and NRP needs to be specified in the control protocols and the packet, so that packet steered to NISA policy can be augmented with both the seed list and the NRP identifier in the packet header. So this document is defines extensions to the BGP asset policy to indicate the NRP which the asset policy is associated with. Okay, so this is the extensions introduced for the NRP in the BGP asset policy mechanism. So basically, we introduce a new sub-TLV called NRP sub-TLV in the BGP tunnel encapsulation attribute. It can be carried with the tunnel type set to asset policy. So this is the format, and this the point has been assigned by ANA. Basically, this sub-TLV consists of an NRP ID and also some flags and reserve fields. So this is the updated BGP asset policy encoding. As we can see that the NRP sub-TLV is at the candidate path level, so that for each candidate path, it can be associated with a specific NRP. Here are the procedures for the processing at the originating node and the receiving side. For the originating node, it should include the NRP sub-TLV in the tunnel encapsulation attributes of the asset policy to specify the associated NRPA. And the setting of other fields are not changed by this document. And for the receiving node, the ingress of the asset policy, it needs to determine whether the asset policy candidate path is acceptable or usable. After that, it should encapsulate an NRP ID in the header of packets, which are steered to the asset policy. For the specific encapsulation of the NRP ID in the packet header, here we give some reference to the draft in 6-man working group and also in MPR's working group. The recent updates of this document, firstly, we add some scalability considerations in the 0.4 version of the individual draft. This is according to the suggestion from the TIS working group. And we also presented this draft in TIS to collect further feedbacks in IETF 118. Then this draft was adopted by IDR working group in December last year. And in the latest version, the 0.1 version, we made some editorial changes and also some updates to the reference. So for the next steps, we think the content of this document has been stable and it is straightforward. Basically, what we need to do is to have further alignment about the terminology with TIS working group, such as the terminology for the data plane NRP identifier. We think that will be initiated the discussion in the TIS working group mailing list soon. Also, we will align with the documents in Spring working group. There will be some document about asset policy architecture and how NRP is used with under that architecture. After that, we think that we can have the working group last of this document in the IDR working group. Okay, that's all of this slides. Any comments or questions?
Alvaro, does this, thank you for your presentation. Alvaro, does this match your understanding of what we need to do in spring?
Yes, it does. And as you said, this is a forthcoming document, right? So we're not discussing it yet.
This document for spring is forthcoming, right?
Correct. Yeah, there was an initial version posted. There needs to be some work because there were actually 2 documents posted. So they're merging. The authors are working on that. And okay. Then we'll take a look. Do we
should, based on G's comment, we should hold up the IDR last call for those documents to work through? Is that my understanding?
That is my understanding. That's what I thought we talked about at one of the last IDR interims.
Yes, we did at the May one. Yep.
Correct.
Okay. We're still on good alignment. Any other comments? Thank you, Alvaro. Just trying to keep synced between the various working groups. Anything else on G's presentation? Thank you, G. We'll go on to the next.
Thank you, Sue.
And Chang Weng, I'm going to try to pass the slide control to you. If it fails, I can always take it back and present the slide. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. Okay. I can control. Yeah.
Good. Please go ahead.
Yeah. This is Chang Wanlin from New HCC. I will present this draft. This draft is about BPRS advertisement of SRTE policy performance metric. So background, the current SR policy implementation mechanism involved the controller distributing the SR policy to the head-end device. The controller then monitors the traffic passing through the TE policy. If the latency or packet loss rate reaches a certain limit, it triggered a path switch for the SRT policy. Alternately, when the link delay or packet loss rate change, the top rate change can be reported to the controller via BPRS, and the controller then performed the path calculation. Currently, the controller lacked the ability to directly get the performance metric of SR policy through BPRS. For the controllers, the issues are first, monitoring the traffic through the T policy is not very convenient. Second, it is unable to measure and record the road trip latency and the packet loss rate. Therefore, this document proposes reporting the performance metric information of SR policy through BPRS at the head-end device. The SR policy delay and the packet loss rate can be measured using a step. The detection result are then reported to the controller via BPRS. Based on the requirement, the controller can then recalculate the SR policy path. We can see the motivation again why the current BPRs cannot provide the T policy performance metric attribute. In RFC 18571, earlier specified how BPLs advertised IGPT performance metric retention attribute information through link attribute TLVs. There's no mention of how SRT policy performance metric attribute can be advertised through attribute. Let's color.
We've lost your sound, Chang Weng. Mike, we still aren't hearing you. You might want to go away and come back. I'll take control of the slides and then I can give them back to you. You might want to try to re-enter the discussion or switch your mic. Well, Chang Wang is,
Can
there
you
you
hear
go.
me now?
Yes, I can. The slides I will send back to you.
Yeah, okay. This draft described a way to advertise the performance metric for T policy using BPRs and update the RFC 18571 to allow the IGPT performance metric theory to be added to the BPR's attribute associated with the link ROI of T policy. In RFC 18571, unidirectional link delay and unidirectional link loss theory have already been defined. This can be reused to advertise the unidirectional performance metric of T policy.
Chang Wang, we've lost your sound again. I'm going to take back the slides and see if you can reset yourself. When you get back, Chen Wang, let me reset your slides. I believe you are on this thing. I will run the slides for you. Let's see if that works better. Okay?
Okay. In RFC 18571, unidirectional link delay and unidirectional link loss theory have already been defined. This can be reused to advertise the unidirectional performance metric of a T policy. Next page, please. Yeah, as described in draft IETF spring step, the SRPM, the SR policy round trip delay and the loss can be measured by using step. This document divided round trip delay theory and round trip link loss theory used to advertise performance related to round trip path. Next page, please. Finally, let's examine the specific location of performance metric information in BPRs. The current BPRs advertised of T policy information is shown in the figure, and SR policy is advertised through the SR policy CP-NOI, which announced a candidate path. Multiple segment list can be included in its attribute. Under the segment list theory, we have added a new performance metric information. The performance metric information include both unidirectional and bidirectional data. Unidirectional information include unidirectional link delay and unidirectional link loss. This theory can be reviewed the definition from RFC 18571 and bidirectional information. TLV include round trip delay, min max round trip delay, and round trip link loss. Next page. That's all. Any questions, comments are welcome.
Okay, this has been a request for working group adoption. We need to look at pros and cons. This presentation is in prior to working group adoption. Please, if you have questions, otherwise we'll start working group adoption within the next week or so. Okay. Thank you, Chang Wang.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And our last presentation for today is the segment list optimization. I am
Hello,
going
Susan.
to,
Yeah,
I can hear you.
okay, thank you.
I'm going to give you control for the slides. If it becomes a problem, let me take them back and I'll walk through them. It seems to
Yeah.
have trouble with the distance. Go ahead, please.
Okay, now I can control that. Hello, everyone. I'm Yisung Liu from Chen Mobile, and I will introduce the S36 segment list optimization on behalf of my co-authors. Whoa. This is the background of this draft, and in the following two scenarios, it is necessary to specify the end seed of the egress node in the segment list of the S36 policy. The first one is that steering the traffic based on the binding seed. For example, in the tunnel splicing scenarios and the interdomain path splicing scenarios requires the specify the end seed of the ingress node in the segment list of the S36 policy. The second one is that end-to-end fast fault detection based on the S36 policy. And the end seed of the egress node must be specified in the SL of the OM messages, like the ping, trace, or BFD. The SRH of the data packets forward based on the S36 policy will encapsulate both the end seed and the VPN service seed of the egress node. That will be some issues for this encapsulation. The first one is that the PSP behavior may not be feasible because the condition of the PSP is not met, which means that the penultimate SR segment endpoint node cannot remove the SRH from the IPv6 extension header. So the second one is that way maybe decrease the forwarding efficiency of the egress node. So the data packet will need to look up the seed table twice for because we have the end seed and the VPN service seed. So for the certain chips, implementing the second seed table lookup requires a loopback interface due to the bandwidth limitations and the possibility of other service packets being in the loopback interface. The packet forwarding efficiency towards the VPNs will be greatly affected. So this draft, we have a proposal that when both the end seed and the VPN service seed of the egress node are present, so the end seed can be removed. We will indicate which seed belongs to the egress node via BGP. So we will notify the ingress node by extending the flags in the reserved field of the seed structure field. So this extension for the segment type that involved the SRA6 seed, like including the type B, I, J, and K. And the second one is that the egress node optimizes the SRH, the SRH of packets. So the end seed and the service seed of the egress node, both on the parse. And the segment list of the packet already contains the service seed of the egress node. So the end seed of the egress node will not be encapsulated in the segment list at the same time. For the protocol extension, we will define a bit to identify which is the ingress node seed. We extended the seed structure field. In the seed structure field, we now existing the reserved field, and we extension for 8 bits for the set of the flags, and now we define a bit for the E flag. When the E flag set indicates that this segment ID is the egress node seed. For the example, for the data packets forwarding to the VPN, and the segment list will not encapsulate the end seed corresponding to the egress node in the seed of the SOA6 policy. But for the OEM packets, all the nodes of the seed list of the SRP policy will be encapsulated. That means the end seed will in the seed list. This draft had been presented at the IETF 117. So now this version will be revised based on the feedback. The main modifications after the Shepherd Susan, thank you. The review. First one is the rename the draft. The second one is the update the abstract for the clarify the text, and the third one is that update the reference for the new draft name. The fourth one is the extend the E flag in the SRA6 C structure field for the clarify that for the segment types B, I, J, and K. And the fifth one is that the E flag protocol extension as the set of the flags. We will come more feedback from the working group, and I think that it's ready for the requests. We want to request the working adoption. Thank you. That's all.
On this draft, there are several questions on what this is going forward. Could you go back a couple slides? I think back to about slide 4, if I remember the right number. One.
This
Yeah,
slide?
Yep. So the question I have to folks who are familiar with the NSID and the VPN SID, is this a reasonable way to deal with the problem? How big is the problem? I'll take input from folk, well, I warned you this might be a question-rich environment today. Is this a normal thing to have occurred with the NSID and the VPN SID? Anyone else want to make a comment? Is this a problem we need to solve?
Because in the SRE 6 policy, for the past, I think the maybe we have the end seed for the policy, and or maybe we have the n.x seed for the policy. But if we use the type of the end seed and the egress node end seed mostly in the policy, but for the data packet we use we always use the VPN seed. So now in the situation, both the AND seed and the VPN seed in the parse, and
Yes. Thank you, Yusung. I'm going to redirect the question toward Alvaro. Thank you for giving that input. Alvaro, has this particular problem been discussed at Spring?
Hi. Not that I remember off the top of my head. I don't think it's been presented there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yusung, I would like to make sure that this problem gets presented at Spring and gets some feedback. Have you tried to get a presentation at Spring before?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Alvaro is the coach, one of the co-chairs for Spring. It would be good to at least present at Spring and have them talk about this problem.
Yeah, it would be good, Yisong, if you started a thread on the list so
okay.
that we can asynchronously get feedback on some of the questions that Sue asked. Other people are seeing the same problems. Do we need to resolve it this way or a different way? Mostly from what Sue said, right, on what the problem is, right?
Yes.
And then we can discuss the solution separately.
We can. You have you have a description of a problem, a solution that makes sense in the IDR draft, but the Spring group needs to confirm the problem with you. So would you start a mail list on the Spring to ask about that? You can always copy the IDR list, but if you address it to the Spring list and say, here's the problem we've observed. Have other people seen this problem? And then get confirmation on the problem. Once you do that, on another mail list, give a resolution to the problem. Again, we're trying to have Spring say, yes, we understand the problem and we understand what your solution might be. And then IDR will be the one adopting the mechanism. Does that make sense?
Yes, I know. I will send the send this draft to the streaming mail list and see how the feedback from the mail list.
It's most important that you simply describe the problem to the mail list, copy IDR, and let the problem happen. You can give your draft as a reference, but try to give a brief discussion on the list. We're trying to get people to pay attention to that and then look at more details in your draft. And then we'll pick up the mechanism and solution. But I'm not running an operational network, so I'd like other people's eyes on the problem and solution. Sometimes problems are simple, and sometimes there are more details. And so having other people look at it is always useful. And thank you for the presentation. We appreciate you taking time to stay up late and present this.
Thank you. Thank you, Chase.
Any other comments for you, Song? Okay. I will stop this slide and I'm going to go back to the main. That is the last presentation. I simply want to remind you of the next steps for IDR. We're going to, excuse me. This is the, this presentation for this interim for SR routing is basically our BGPLS and SR routing focus for this IETF 121. Our next interims will be link bandwidth. There was a great deal of discussion. Next top capability, that is both the entropy draft and the now generic metric draft. We will have a short interim on VS FlowSpec v2 just to bring in some review before we start adoption calls for some of the drafts. And if we have a best chair time, we will do SD-WAN secure VPNs. Best brought up the fact there were 4 different types of secure VPNs. And lastly, on October 14th, we will have an initial draft. If you're planning to request an initial draft for IETF 121, please work ahead and request a slot on October 14th. We'll get you there and we'll provide some additional feedback before you head off to IETF 121. Kay, or anything else?
All good. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Any other questions, comments? I want to thank Alvaro and all the speakers. Thank you, Alvaro, for taking the time to participate and give us a lot of good feedback. Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye.